Recently, I've made an effort to watch more Chinese anime, and before you start roasting me in the comments, I know that it's called Donghua, but when I say Chinese anime, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, when I came across The Daily Life of the Immortal King on Netflix, I figured, hey, this is the perfect chance to check out a Donghua. Plus, Scissor 7 was my favorite anime 2020. I love that show. I plan on uploading a review of Season 3 here soon. I just haven't got to it yet. But I love Scissor 7, so I figured, hey, you might love The Daily Life of the Immortal King. Give it a chance. And if you are somebody who is seeking to get into Donghua, The Daily Life of the Immortal King is not the show I would recommend for it. Now, I'm not going to stand here and tell you that I didn't enjoy The Daily Life of the Immortal King. I pretty much did throughout the entire first season. I found it enjoyable, but I am someone who is a sucker for power fantasy anime, and that is what this show is. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, even though it's a Donghua, it very much follows a typical power fantasy format that you find with most anime. You have a protagonist who is super just ridiculously OP. You put him in a school setting where nobody really knows how powerful he is. He has to work his way up to the ranks, and he gradually gains, like, you know, respect and notoriety and that kind of stuff as people realize how powerful he is. It follows that very basic format with its own little twist, and that twist is the action isn't really front and center in The Daily Life of the Immortal King. Like, yes, there is action, and I'd argue the action is mostly subpar until the very end of the first season, but the action's there. What is actually front and center for this show is the comedy. The comedy is what really carries this show, and it is quite funny. It's not like uproariously hilarious or anything like that, but the jokes in this show are decent. You will get quite a few laughs, or at least I did. I can't say, you know, maybe you won't. Comedy is subjective, but I got quite a few laughs, and I found the show overall to be decently funny. But if you want action, if you want good action, this is not the show for you, because for the most part, the action in this anime or in this Donghua is below average until you get to like the last 2 episodes of season 1. And the action gets amazing, especially when the main protagonist goes berserk and he unleashes all of his powers and he loses his shit and just goes crazy. Like, that action scene was great, but that was really the only above average action scene in the whole show throughout its entire run of season 1. It really seemed that the action was meant to be, the action was mostly for comedic purposes. When you did get action, it wasn't any kind of like cool fight choreography or him showing off these awesome techniques. It was mostly him just dispatching some bad guy quickly for the sake of comedy, which is not necessarily bad, but in the power fantasy genre, we're used to getting better action than what you will get in The Daily Life of the Immortal King. I am not going to be saying any names of the characters, because while I have a fair amount of practice saying Japanese names, I have very little practice saying Chinese names. So instead of just butchering them, I'm gonna avoid it altogether. But the characters in this show aren't great in the aspect as they're like fully fleshed out characters or characters that are all that unique and that kind of stuff. They're pretty, I don't want to say formulaic or cookie cutter or that kind of thing, but none of them are special. Even the main character, while he is something that's different from a lot of power fantasy anime where he's actively trying to stay on the low key and not be noticed, he doesn't want anybody to know about his powers. He actively goes about erasing people's memories who see him use his powers. I guess that is a little different than what you might find in most power fantasy anime, but even his character is nothing to write home about. There's nothing about his character that'll make you want to watch this show. He's pretty bland. Although I gotta give this show credit, they give a narrative reason as to why he is so bland. Bland, it doesn't show a lot of emotions. He has to keep his emotions in check so he can keep his powers in check. So maybe that you gotta cut the show some slack because of that, but then you can still find some ways to make the character more interesting than what the main character is in The Daily Life of the Immortal King, because all the characters are pretty much bland. And so all you have in this show is the comedy carrying it. If you don't have interesting characters, you don't have above average action, all you have is just decent comedy, that can be enough for me to enjoy a show, because I'm just a sucker for power fantasy anime, and I'll watch them almost no matter what. It is really hard to get me to dislike a power fantasy anime. But if you were somebody who just isn't deep into the genre like I am, yeah, you're probably not gonna enjoy this show, because there's nothing remarkable about it. There's nothing that will make me recommend it to someone. Like, so while I did enjoy it, I would not recommend this anime to anyone unless you just had nothing else to watch. You got to the bottom of your watch list and you need something just to pass time, then sure, check it out. And also, I gotta admit that at the time I'm making this video, I have not watched season 2. I didn't even know season 2 was out until I started making this video or started planning to make it. So maybe I'll watch season 2. I haven't really decided yet. Again, while I did enjoy season 1, it wasn't good enough to make me want a second season. The power system in this show can be much more fleshed out than what it is also. It is really hard to like grasp what exactly the different abilities are because they don't really describe what the different abilities are. You don't know if certain characters are better at certain things than others because it doesn't really describe any of it. It just kind of throws you into the middle of it and they can just kind of do shit. Why? Because they can. I do like that we get a quantitative look at how powerful all the characters are, so it makes it easy to compare, you know, one character to another and say, okay, this character is more powerful than the other one because the quantitative score they give for how powerful they are is higher than the other person. I like that. It makes it easy to compare strength between characters, but besides that, you don't really get a reason as to why certain characters can do certain things the other ones can't. And of course, the main character can do everything because he is the main character of a power fantasy anime. He's just super OP. He can do everything, but we don't really even get a description as to why he's able to do everything. He just can. And so the power system in the show and what the abilities are and how people train to get stronger, that kind of stuff isn't really explained. Shit just kind of happens, which is a hallmark of a show that isn't that good. The biggest thing that bothered me about the daily life of the Immortal King is the ending. I am not a fan of time travel in almost any way when it comes to television shows or movies or anything, because to me it often seems like a lazy way of writing and a cop-out as to how you're able to do stuff. And the daily life of the Immortal King, the last few episodes we get are time travel. The main character, he fucks up, and so he goes back in time to fix his mistake. That's pretty much it, and I don't like that narrative device or that plot device. I think it gives writers an easy way out, and I think it's an easy way to wrap up a story without putting in a lot of effort into coming up with a better way of wrapping up the story than time travel. But that's just me. If you're someone who time travel doesn't bother you, the ending for season 1 probably won't affect you as much, won't bother you as much as it did me. So I'm not gonna hold that against the show too much from an objective sense. This maybe more of a personal gripe. I just don't like time travel almost ever, and so that really bothered me. Another reason why I probably wouldn't recommend this show to anyone unless you're just bored and need something to watch. But even then, you could find other shows that are better. Like, have you seen Escape to Infinity? If not, go check it out. What are you doing with your life? Go watch that anime. But the daily life of the Immortal King, if you were like me and just love power fantasy anime, sure, check it out. You might like it more than me, but even if you love this show, I think we could all agree it's not very good. It's just okay. That's all I have for you in this one, guys. If you enjoyed this video, go hit that. That's all I have for you in this one, guys. If you enjoyed this video, go hit that thumbs up. And if you were so inclined, subscribe and share it. It would help me out a lot. If you didn't like the video or if you disagree with anything I said, hit me up down in the comments. We can talk about it. Maybe you love the daily life of the Immortal King. You think it's amazing. We can talk about it down there. I respond to almost everything. Also, follow and hit me up on Twitter @DadDoAnime. And I'll see you guys in the next one.